Howdy and welcome to Chapter 5, Part 1, where we are going to start solving inequalities and then graphing them on a number line. So let's go ahead and look at number 1. Here we have an inequality. An inequality is anything with a less than or greater than sign, or less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to sign. Now, how we solve these inequalities, we treat them for the most part just like equations. So how would we solve this equation if we put an equal sign in the middle? Well, the very first thing you would want to do is add 9 to both sides and then bring down your x. Negative 4 plus 9 is a positive 5. And now, was it an equal sign? No, it was not an equal sign. We have to bring down our inequality. Our inequality was a less than sign. So now we solve the inequality, so this is a solution for the inequality. Now we have to graph it. Well, you put the number that it lands on right in the middle of your graph. You put one number bigger on the right, one number smaller on the left, just like a normal number line would be. Now with a less than sign, there's no less than or equal to sign. It is an open circle right on 5. And now x is less than 5, so we want all numbers less than 5. So which way would we go, left or right? Well, 4 is less than 5, so we would go to the left to shade, and so this would be our graph of the solution. Number 2, let's try number 2. Now we have 15 is greater than or equal to 13 minus p. Again, we have to solve for p. The very first thing we have to do is subtract 13 from both sides. Bring everything down. 2 is greater than or equal to negative p. Now, is it p solved for? No, it's not, because the negative sign. So what do we have to do? We have to divide out that negative sign. We have to switch the signs, whatever you're comfortable with saying. But I'm going to divide out by a negative 1. Divide out by a negative 1. So now we have negative 2. Now we have a positive p. But notice what happens when we divide or multiply an inequality by a negative. We switch the sign. When we divide or multiply by a negative, we have to switch the inequality. So we just switch the inequality because we divided by a negative. So now we have negative 2 goes in the middle, 1 greater on the right. Be careful because it's negative 1. 1 smaller on the left, that's negative 3. Now instead of a open circle, it is a closed circle, thanks to the less than or equal to sign, so we fill in the circle. Now we also have to be very careful here, because it's negative 2 is less than or equal to p. So where are all the numbers greater than negative 2? Because negative 2 is the smallest number, is smaller than p. So we want p to be big numbers, so p could be negative 1, could be 0. Now with number 3, same situation here. G is not by itself, so we have to get it by itself. First thing we have to do is divide out by negative 5. Divide out by negative 5. G and 5, because negative divided by negative is positive. What do we have to do with the inequality? We have to switch it because we divided out a negative. We divided out a negative, so we have to switch the inequality. So again, when making the graph, put 5 right smack dab in the middle, 6 on the right, 4 on the left. Now you could have picked 100 for the right, you could have picked 0 for the left. Doesn't matter as long as the numbers are bigger on the right, smaller on the left. We have an equal to, so it's a filled in circle. Now it says G is less than or equal to 5. So G is smaller than 5, so we want to shade to the left. Number 4. Now how is this 1/2 attached to the t? It is attached through multiplication, so I'm going to divide by 1/2. I am dividing both sides by 1/2. So now t is, or sorry, I should say negative 16 is greater than t. And so now we put negative 16 right in the middle. We put 1 greater on the right side, which is negative 15, and then negative 17 on the left side. There is no equal to sign underneath the inequality, so it is a opened circle. And now it says negative 16 is greater than t. So since 16 is greater than t, we're going to shade to the left. Now I'm going to fill you in on a little hint here, and now we also draw an angle or a arrow to let everybody know that we can keep shading this way. I'm going to let everybody in on a little hint. If our variable is on the left side of the inequality, we can shade the arrow. All right, so since the variable was on the left, we looked at our arrow, we shaded to the left. Now if it's on the opposite side, if it's on the right side of the inequality, we cannot follow the arrow, so we have to go the opposite way. So it was pointing to the right, so now since the variable is on the right, we have to shade to the left because we cannot follow the arrow. Let's try some more. Now with number 5, it's just a two-step equation is all. So we have to add 10 to the other side, bring down your negative 2x, bring down now, which is 30. It is also a less than or equal to sign. We are dividing by negative 2, dividing by negative 2. So now x, when we divide by a negative, remember what happens to your inequality. It switches the inequality, and it's negative 15. And we're not going to graph anymore because I think you have a good grasp of it. So negative 15 is greater than or equal to x. Next, number 6, very first thing we have to do is move the 9 to the other side. We move that through addition. So t over 3 is greater than 11. Now how do we undo what's being done to t? What is being done to t? It is being divided, so we have to multiply by 3. So we multiply both sides by 3. So t is greater than 33. To recap, you can draw a number line, put 33 in the middle, 34 on the right, and then one smaller than on the left. It is an open circle. Since t is on the left side, you can follow the arrow. One more time, since t, our variable, is on the left side, we can follow this arrow. So we shade over here. And then I'm going to, draw a number line on this side very quickly so we can recap how we draw our number line. Negative 15 in the middle, negative 14 on the right, negative 16 on the left. Close circle because of the equal to. And now, is our variable on the left? No, it is on the right, so we have to go the opposite of the arrow. So we would shade to the left. Hey, everybody's favorite word problems. Here we go. Now, Mario purchases a prepaid phone plan for $50 at 13 cents a minute. How many minutes can Mario talk in his plan? Well, we're asked to write an inequality, so our very first thing we have to do is let's find our constant. 13 cents per minute. How would we represent 13 cents per minute? Well, hopefully we know that it's 0.13. How would we represent per minute? M. And now, can he spend more than $50? No, he cannot spend more than $50, so it's a less than or equal to 50. And now we just have to solve for m, so we divide by 0.13, divide by 0.13, so m is less than or equal to 384.6. But now, can we have 6/10 of a minute? No. So the phone companies will always round down because it's all about money for them. So its m is less than or equal to 384 minutes. Number 8. A car salesperson is paid a base salary of $35,000 a year plus 8% of sales. What are the sales needed to have an annual income greater than $65,000? So I read that last part, greater than $65,000. So I'm going to put a greater than sign, and then I'm going to put $65,000 right over here. Next, what has to be greater than $65,000? Well, I have a base salary of $35,000, so I'm going to go ahead and put that down. But what are you adding to it? Plus, I'm going to change my pen, plus 8% of sales. So I'm going to say 0.08. And of what? Of sales. Do we know what sales are? No, we do not. So I'm just going to write a cursive S for my variable. Now we just have to solve for s. So I subtract 35,000 from both sides. Bring down everything you didn't use, 0.08. S is greater than 3,000. Divide by 0.08. Divide by 0.08. So now S is greater than 37,500. We're talking about money, so we add a dollar sign. And so the sales needed to have an annual income greater than 65,000. The salesperson needed to sell more than $37,500. 3 more examples here. Now, number 9 looks a little bit different than what we've seen before because we have 2 inequalities. When we have 2 inequalities like that, it's completely fine. We just have to treat it like 2 equal signs. So how do we treat it like 2 equal signs? Well, I need to get that 4 out of there, right? So I add it in the middle. I also add it on the right, and I also add it on the left. Everywhere where you see an inequality, you have to add it. So here's once in the middle, once over here, once over there. Now we continue. Now we have 12, bring down everything that we didn't use. 2c is less than or equal to 22. How do you undo multiplication? You have to divide. Well, when you divide by 2, you have to divide on both sides of the inequality. So you have to divide by 2 over here and over here. So now 6 is less than, c is less than or equal to 11. Now, how do we graph something like this? Well, let's start with one side at a time. We have the numbers 6 and 11, so I'm just going to put them down. 6, 11, and I'm just going to throw something in the middle. Let's go with 9. So I'm going to start with this first. 6 is less than c. So it's a open circle on 6. Now c is on the right side of 6, so I'm not going to follow the arrow. I'm going to shade to the right. Now, let's try the other side. C is less than or equal to 11, so now I have a closed circle on 11. Since C is on the left side, I can shade to the left. This is an and statement, so we will shade right in the middle. So there's our graph, and our inequality is 6 is less than C, which is less than or equal to 11. Number 10. Now, since it's an OR statement, you can solve each inequality separately. So we add 1 to each side, add 1 to each side. So now y is greater than 8. Now I'm going to solve this guy, so I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. So y is less than -4. So now let's put both of those numbers on the number line. So I have -4 down here. I'm just going to say that's 0. And then over here is 8. We have a open circle on 8. And I'm going to do that in blue so it matches what how I got 8. So we have an open circle. Now the variable is on the left, so we can use the arrow. Since the arrow is going to the, or is pointing to the right, we just shade to the right. I'm going to shade a little bit more. And now we have y is less than -4, so it's another open circle on -4. The variable is on the left, so we can follow the arrow, so we can shade to the left. And finally, 11. 8 less than a number is no more than 14 and no less than 5. Well, I'm going to start with this right now. 8 less than a number. How can we represent that? We have to be careful in that because it's saying 8 less than whatever comes next. So we have 8 less than a number, so my number is just n, and I'm going to subtract 8 from that. Now I'm going to start is no more than 14. How can you represent no more than 14? Can you be bigger than 14? No, because you have no more. So we have less than or equal to 14, and then we have no less than 5, so I'm going to say n minus 8 again is no less than 5, so n minus 8 is greater than or equal to 5, so we put it together real quick. 5, keeping the same inequality, is less than or equal to n minus 8, keeping the same equality, and less than or equal to 14. Have the best day!